Okay, so I wanted to talk about how I tend to create journals to do bullet journaling or whatever, and then I never finish them. And so here's a perfect example of that, and something I want to change. So I started this one in April of 2020, and as you can see, it's got a huge table of contents. And then I think this page stuck. Yeah. So there was a bill pay, and there's a blank page, and then there's a social media tracker, coronavirus chronicles, and then we skipped May entirely. Didn't finish April past the first day. Skipped May entirely. Started again in June. So I loved this lettering that I did. And these were all of the ideas that I had of things I wanted to work on for the second half of the year. Daily goals. And then we hit July. So, again, I loved the lettering I did and had all these plans to overhaul my Etsy shop. La la la, listed all this stuff out. Didn't do any of it. Then I did a brain dump, and that didn't work. I mean, it helped a little bit, but really didn't get me anywhere. So that was July. Then we have September, and I hated the lettering and the leaves on this one. I really hated it. But I didn't really do much. Missed November. Missed October. Did I miss October? September, October. Missed November. Started again with December. I have all these great cover pages. And it's like I spend so much time on cover pages, and then all of a sudden, that's it. So I laid it all out. Didn't do anything. And then I have all of this book left. So today I want to show you how my plan to revamp this book, because not for nothing, I mean, bullet journals aren't that much more expensive than any other notebook, but I will not throw this away. So what I had done on the cover of this book was wrote 2020 and then April, May, June, because I thought I was going to fill this book up in 3 months, and I didn't. Clearly. So what I've done here, I had lots of little doodles, you can probably see, but what I've done here is I've taken some gesso from Liquitex and covered the cover of this journal. And just to show you that I really mean it when I say this is a bad habit of mine, I have this one as well. So I've done the same thing, covered the top with gesso, but this one was mostly supposed to be an art journal. And so you can see that like these are really pretty pages, but I just kind of like made them and then just kind of let them sit. I didn't really do anything beyond creating the pages, which is okay. But it would probably be better if I figured out a way to actually put these to some use. So I think I'm going to spend some time scanning them so that I can use them in other art projects. Maybe create some printable downloads so that you guys could buy these and print them out on your own computer and use them in your art projects, or your journaling projects. But yeah, like I got to a point where I would spend probably 15 minutes a day just making a new page or two. And this was kind of nice to help me kind of reset during the day. Whenever I would get to a point where, you know, I was feeling stressed, or my daughter was having a hard time with school, and things were just kind of crazy around here, I could sit down with my little koi watercolors. This is really cool. It's got, I'll show you in a second, it's got a bunch of really nice colors in it, and a section where you can mix colors. And I learned a lot about playing with watercolor when I did this, and then I just used a white gel pen over the top. So, to keep it simple, some of the pages I haven't done the the stuff on yet, but this was just a nice little break from the day, kind of zone out, and made me really happy. However, I wanted to turn this into something a little more focused, I think. And so, again, since there's a ton of pages left, blank pages left, I want to either continue to do the watercolor background thing, or I want to say, okay, here we are, it's 2021, I'm going to fill up these pages some other way. So I haven't quite decided, but again, I covered the front with gesso because I feel like I need the clean slate, and so for me, the gesso will help me to, maybe title this book after it's done. I'm going to keep it plain. I may just do some doodles or something on it, but not really like label it. I have a habit of labeling my journals, and it's not really a good thing to do because I never stick to it. So as you can see, on this journal page, I've got the first layer of gesso down, and this pen, this black pen that I used, is showing through, and some of the green gel pen, Sakura green, neon green gel pen is showing through. So this baby's probably going to take a couple of coats of gesso. So I'm going to go wash out my brush, and hopefully this will dry a little bit more. I can still feel it's not really coming up, but I like it to be totally dry. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. This cover is mostly dry. The other one I'm also going to do is mostly dry. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about gesso and why it's such a great medium to use. If you don't have gesso, you can use house paint, believe it or not. If you have any old ceiling paint that is either ideally like a flat finish, the more matte the better, because the thicker it'll be and the less it'll have a tendency to be sticky. I know that right now we're in January, so things don't get too hot around here, but I want to be able to put my book on a shelf somewhere and not have it stick to something or have paint peel off or whatever. So I like to use gesso, but I have definitely used flat ceiling paint in the past, or even like if I found some, if you go to, your local store that makes paint, you can sometimes find flat paint in the section where they, like the mistakes and stuff, you can find a little quart of it for pretty cheap. So that works just as well if you don't have gesso. But so I'm going to try to get these spots covered up, and I think what I'm going to do at this point, I have a whiteout pen, and this may actually help me cover this, the darker spots. I don't know if you could see that, but the darker spots and the greener spots. This whiteout pen will help me cover those first, and then when I brush more gesso over the top, it probably won't bleed through. We're going to check it out and see what happens. So I'm just going to give this a little shake. And I'm just going to go in, didn't shake it quite enough. Okay, let's try that. There we go. So I'm just going to go over the spots that are the darkest, because I know that the gesso will cover the gray or smeared areas, but it's those really dark spots that it'll bleed through. Now I could do multiple coats of gesso, and that would definitely take care of it, but I'd rather just kind of quickly get this over with so that I can actually use my book, because that would be the whole purpose of why I was doing what I'm doing here. And more than likely, it wouldn't bleed through again, even just with a second coat of gesso, but I just want to be sure. So I'm going to cover every little dark spot glob. I wish I had a picture of this to show you from before I started it, but I didn't think to record this until after I started, so I apologize for that. But it was a pretty little design I did. A bunch of vines hanging off the word, or the 2020. And they're kind of neat. But on to bigger and better things in 2021. So I'm just gonna let that dry a little bit. I have a couple of spots on my other one as well. I haven't done the backs yet, so I'm gonna do those too. But this one, it's that darn gel pen that really bled right through. I wouldn't have expected that. They tend to be pretty water soluble, but maybe that's why. They weren't Sharpies or microns, so that's probably why they bled through. So there's that. That was easy. Alright, so I'm just going to dry these off, get these to set up. I'll do another coat of gesso. Over here drying the other one. So feel free to ask me any questions you might have in the comments. Let me know if you also found out that this year was not the year to try to stick to any routines. Well, this past year, I should say. I think that was my big problem. There was no way that I was going to really be able to routinely do my journaling, and I don't want that to happen again. I know that a lot of times we don't make time for ourselves, especially as mothers and wives and employees of other places, and it can get to be overwhelming. And then if you add in the whole global pandemic issue and the election, and 2020 was just a doozy. And so for me, there were a lot of times where self-care revolved around literally sitting on the couch, maybe crocheting, or just delving into shows like The Queen's Gambit and Ratched, and what else did I get into this year? I don't even remember. It's all a blur. It's a blur. So, anyway, I need to for myself, I need to make sure that I'm taking that 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at a clip, where I'm just decompressing into a journal. And believe me, I have a couple different ones for different reasons, I think. But the other one that I have right now is more of like a writing journal. So I'm journaling, I'm tracking daily habits, that kind of thing. And then I have another one that I use strictly for financial stuff. And then I have another one that I use for my art business and my social media and all of that. And then I have another one where I'm tracking my journey to being a little more healthier. So anyway, back to this. So you can stay tuned for more videos for that, because I'm going to talk about all of those things. But one of my goals for this year was definitely to make more content. So here we are. So anyway, the gesso, I can still see a little bit of the white gel pen coming through, but I think we did a good job of covering all the darkest spots. So I'm just gonna put a little bit. It's actually a lot. It looks like a little bit, but it covers. You want to do a nice thin coat. You don't want to have globs. And my biggest thing is the lines from the brush. So sometimes they're great because they add lots of texture to like a painting or what have you, a collage maybe. But on the cover of my book, I don't want those lines. So I'm going through and just making sure. So you can see that the coverage is much better with the second coat. And the thing about gesso is that you kind of can't, I mean, maybe you could, but I don't like to put the unused gesso back in the bottle as much as it looks like it would be easy to do, because it does dry very quickly. And so once it's been exposed to the air, and then whatever you've put it on, it's picked up any pigment, any coloring and stuff. If you put it back in the bottle, it's kind of, you know, contaminated sort of in that way. So if you don't care because you're just going to paint all over the whole thing anyway, and you're going to use it as a base, or maybe if you have two bottles of gesso, one that's a dirty bottle and one that's a clean, fresh bottle, you could do your first coat with the dirty bottle. If you really wanted to do that and you wanted to save some money, be a little frugal with your supplies, at least until you get used to knowing like how much you need to cover a certain area. That might be a good idea. I've been using gesso for 25 years now, and I love how it just smooths everything out, gives you this bright, fresh, clean palette to work on. I've used it to paint over canvases in the past when I didn't have the money for a new canvas or a new watercolor pad or whatever. You find things that, you know, just didn't make you happy that you worked on, and fresh coat of gesso or house paint can really give you that nice clean place to start over, which is what I'm doing with these covers, because that's, you know, like I said, these notebooks and stuff, I mean, you could buy regular composition notebooks in September and pay, you know, 50 cents at Walmart for them or whatever. But if you have like really nice bullet journals that you like and you want to keep going with them, or art journals or whatever that you like, and you want to freshen them up a little bit, this is a good way to do it. So I don't know if you can see that. There's still a little bit coming through right in here, so I'll probably do yet a third coat of this, but I'm going to put this one aside and go back to the art journal and do another coat here. Now here you can sort of see, right in here, you can see the craft paper color coming through. Now this one is a lot more bulky, because of the watercolor that I used on the inside. This is not watercolor paper. This is regular bullet journal paper. So when it absorbs the water, and the water makes it, when it absorbs the water and the water kind of makes it all crinkly, I kind of like that. It's neat. Excuse me, I have hiccups today. It's neat because it just, adds a lovely crinkly texture to the outside of the book, that it was loved. So on this one, I'm going to do one more coat of gesso. And this is nice. Now I haven't done, like I said, I haven't done the back or the sides yet, but I'm going to do that. I just wanted to get these covers covered. Covers covered. And like I said, it's okay if you want to keep those lines for texture. Maybe you're gonna paint with acrylics over the top, and that texture would be nice to have. Maybe you plan to kind of do, I don't know, maybe a crayon rubbing or something that could use that texture to support it when you glue it down, that kind of thing. You want to be careful on your edges. If you saw there how I was just kind of cleaning up an edge. Especially if you're doing this once the book has been used a little. It would be easy to get the gesso in the edges, like if you're not super careful the way that you hit them. Like you shouldn't go this way. I did, and I know that I'm going to see gesso on my pages for it, but that's okay. I'll survive. You should go from the center, go out, and the center, go down. Much better. There. So now, again, I'm seeing a little bit of the green coming through, but I don't think that's going to be a huge problem for me. I'm just going to do my binding here. I didn't do it the first time, so this doesn't have to be perfect, because usually when I play with books and stuff, I do a kind of a reinforced binding, kind of like you see on those composition notebooks, how they have that fabric sort of reinforcement there. My brush is running out, but that's okay. And there you go. So there's that one, and then my other one. And that is how you clean a book for a fresh start. And yeah, now you can also, one more thing, you can also use gesso on your journal pages. So don't think that you're relegated only to the cover. Let's say that you have a page that didn't come out the way Whew, excuse me. Let's see if the pages didn't come out the way you want. I'm totally gesso over it. Oh boy, I got gesso on my desk. And then start over after you gesso over it. So I'm gonna go get a sponge and clean this up because that will drive me crazy. Anyway, have a good one, guys.